Good morning, internet friends. We are getting ready to head out to Goodwill. This is my little OOTD. This is a dress from Antonio Milani that I snagged at Dillard's Clearance Center almost a year ago now. And then I have my 7 or 9 ballet flats on. Without further ado though, let's head out to the thrift store. So far, I have this Tahari jumpsuit. I like it because it's pinstripe, and I'm hoping it fits me, but if not, I think it'll go in the shop because that's a pretty old Tahari label. And it's just cute. I like it. It's very like 90s workwear attire. Getting ready for the day real quick. Today, I think I'm going to head out to the Loop. I have some errands to run over in that area. There's like a TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Home Goods, you know, it's just one of those like typical shopping areas. There's also a Publix over in that area that I want to swing into. I mean, there's a Publix on every corner of Orlando. I very quickly have started to become a fan of Publix. Leave it to Americans to create personality types around a grocery store. There is a specific like chicken salad type of thing that I have been obsessed with. I got a container on a whim the other day and I ate that thing so fast. So my goal is to go in there and pick up another container of it because it's my new favorite thing to consume. I also have been watching an abnormal amount of TV for myself. I tend to go in spurts with watching TV where I will not watch anything for months on end and then all of a sudden I'll just binge watch a bunch of shows. So lately I've been watching or rewatching Grey's Anatomy. I used to be obsessed with that show. That show was like my comfort show for years. Like I would put it on before I fell asleep or something at night, you know, just something to have on in the background. And man, I've been rewatching it and I just like, why do I put myself through those emotions? Why do I let myself feel these emotions for a second time around? Because oh my gosh, like such a whirlwind of a series. So many things happen that just like break you, like it breaks your soul. But before I started watching Grey's Anatomy, I was watching Dark Matter on Apple TV. That's what it's on. And that show was pretty, I don't know, it was decent. The ending was kind of a flop for me. I felt like they could have spent a little bit more time explaining the ending. I think lately though, especially the more and more I'm having conversations online, I'm starting to realize I am a cosmic horror fan. I never put that together. Like I couldn't explain to myself like why I like certain things that I like. And then it dawned on me that like cosmic horror is a genre and it's a genre that I am very much into. I don't like horror. I don't like murder mystery or anything like that. Like none of that stuff interests me. But what does interest me is cosmic horror. Anything that gives me a slight amount of existential dread and also tells some terrifying story that could be real, but also could very much not be real. Just, oh my goodness, I can't get enough of it. I really can't. And Dark Matter was just enough of that. I don't know if I would quite say cosmic horror, but it was teetering on it, and it was just the right amount of existential dread that I was just like, okay. Like my brain hurts a little bit, but it really got me thinking like what have been some of my most interesting like movie and television watches of the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years. And I realized movies like Annihilation, freaking whoa, man. And I'm terrified to read the books, but it's been another thing that I've just been thinking like, okay, if I really got into these movies and they really were that interesting to me, maybe I should consider reading some of these series. The whole point of me talking about this is I wanted to stop into a bookstore today, and I was thinking about like what type of books I should consider investing in, because I haven't really been finding anything thrifting that I've been very happy with. I know the author that I should start with would be H.P. Lovecraft, but I don't think I can handle that type of cosmic horror. I think that will be part of my adventure today, is trying to find a good book to read. If anybody has any recommendations down below, if you too are a fan of that genre or have dipped your feet into that world, is there any safe book that I could read? I feel like a lot of these books are just gonna tear my brain apart, but I don't know. If I can handle Grey's Anatomy and everything that there is to unpack with that show, I think I can probably handle some cosmic horror in my life. Quick little OOTD. Got my Free People little puff sleeve top, Levi's barrel crop, and still rocking those 7 or 9 shoes. So I just Googled the show Dark, which was also one of my favorite TV shows. In fact, I would say top 5 TV shows, Dark is on that list. And I Googled to see what book would be recommended if I enjoyed the show Dark. And all of Blake Crouch's books came up, which is the guy who wrote Dark Matter. So I'm on to something. I feel like I am at least putting pieces together as far as genre that I think I want to read. This is totally an unintentional find, but I had no idea Norma Kamali wrote a book. So I ended up going with the 3-body problem. I was all set to get the Annihilation series, which is the Southern Reach books, but they only had the second one. And then they had 2 other books that the author wrote, but I don't know, I think I'm so set on the Southern Reach ones because they never finished the movies. It's kind of one of those, like, I want to continue the story in my head, but I want to at least read the first one. So I was a little bummed about that, but I guess that just motivates me to try and find it at the thrift store. But yeah, settled on the 3-body problem. I just had to give this a proper try on because I love the pinstriping on it. It is so cute. And I feel like this with a white like puff sleeve button down on underneath would be such a good look. I just think it is so cute, like vintage Stahari. It's just one of those career wear, like workwear style outfits that never really goes out of style. I just got done watching a really interesting interview with Mara Hoffman. It was such a good podcast, but it really got me thinking about, well, clearly I've been on an existential dread kick, which is a kick that I have been on my entire adult life. There are 2 things that I think about on a regular basis: philosophy and fashion. And those are 2 things that are so, like, man, do they conflict? They conflict a lot. After watching her podcast, it really made me want to sit down and finally have this conversation. This is a conversation that I've been thinking about having with you guys for such a long time. I just didn't know when, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to say. I think I've gathered a pretty solid idea of what I want to articulate. After watching the Mara Hoffman interview, she talked a lot about why she shut down her business and walked away from it. It was fascinating to me because her biggest takeaway was, the planet. She doesn't want to like create or produce anymore. Another aspect of her conversation was, what is she going to be now outside of this? Like, what is her purpose kind of thing? Makes me think about like my purpose in fashion. What is it that I want to do here? What is the message that I want to portray? It's weirdly enough been about a year since I made a video where I talked about accepting PR and working with companies and how, based on my job, like I just didn't want to do that. And that wasn't kind of the message that I wanted to put out there. And wow, okay, like I always knew in the background that so much had changed mentally for me. And I would imagine some of you guys probably were like, what the heck, Laura? Like, I remember you stating this and now you're doing this. And I've wanted for such a long time to at least talk about it, to at least have a conversation around it. Now, obviously, I mentioned existential dread and philosophy already. I want to dive into those two aspects of why my brain has shifted so much. The first one being existential dread. Is the fashion industry just going to plummet us into the ground? And I think the short answer is potentially yes, but the long answer is I don't want to see a world exist without fashion. Fashion is such a fundamental piece of humanity and creation and art that I think is so important. Fashion creates jobs, and we need jobs, and we need art, and we need creativity, we need commerce, all of these things. I think at the end of the day, I have always wanted my message to be sustainability with a side of creativity, following your passion, and knowing what resources to use correctly. I think when I moved from Los Angeles, that was when a really big shift happened in my head, because for the last couple years, I've really kind of like teetered on the idea of maybe getting a job, maybe no longer doing this side of my business. I say maybe because like I still don't want that to happen, but if it's something that does end up happening, I'm not going to be disappointed about it. I'll just throw this out there, but I seriously considered just applying for a part-time job at Anthropologie. And I was like, well, dang, I'm sitting here like spreading this message of like you should thrift and only thrift, but yet I'm gonna go get a job at Anthropologie. I need to unpack that. And I also needed to unpack in my head, do I want my message to just be completely making people feel like the only thing that they should be doing is thrifting? No, absolutely not. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to try and make someone feel bad because they can't carve out this time in their day to go out and thrift. And I'm not saying all of this thinking I all of a sudden want to start like promoting fast fashion or overconsumption or any of these things. No, the point of this is like I needed to break myself free of the idea that thrifting and secondhand is the absolute only way, because if that became the reality, we would lose so much art and creativity. I really think my message and my outlook on life needed to shift to more of a reasonable approach to the fashion industry. I think a lot of that came down to what type of fabric I wanted to consume, what type of quality I wanted to consume, and just what I was willing to put myself behind as someone who loves talking about fashion on the internet. I've been so afraid to talk about this because I'm afraid I'm going to like piss off and alienate some of my audience. But I know that that's kind of already happened in some ways when I started talking about brands and talking about different fashion choices outside of thrifting. But I think at the core, I have still stuck to sustainability. And I've still stuck to these brands that manufacture clothing with intention. But I think at the end of the day, there is just so much to unpack with all of this. But I think my like philosophical outlook and standpoint on it, going back to the Mara Hoffman decision. Yeah, she decided to close her business. And I'm not trying to say that like she's doing this personally. I think she went in with a lot of intention and like really well thought out this decision. When she did decide to close her doors, I don't know how she approached the idea of, having to lay off all of these employees, but she did lay off a ton of employees. There's no way around that. She closed her business, so therefore she closed hundreds, if not thousands of jobs for people. I think the like philosophical standpoint of all of that is to go, who was right? And I don't know. I like that's part of philosophy, is just like not knowing who was right, or kind of constantly battling these thoughts in your head. Her decision to close down the business for the greater good of the planet versus closing down the business and impacting, you know, thousands of people's livelihood. That is always one of those like ageless conundrums that we constantly have to battle with. But I think in this moment, in this time frame, I really choose the fact that the fashion industry provides jobs and it provides art and creativity. All we can do as individuals is try and make smart, well thought out purchases and decisions. Buy secondhand as much as you possibly can. I think if you are going to buy new though, try and be as informed as possible about quality and sustainability and what's going to last you a long time, how to care for these pieces. I think that's really where the shift has happened in my mindset as far as like what kind of message I wanted to put out there. I wanted to talk more about how all of us can access the fashion industry. I mean, as much as the fashion industry has hurt us in the long run as far as overconsumption goes, it's also kind of democratized the idea of creativity and self-expression. Everybody has access now to interesting fashion and interesting levels of creativity. I really did think it was important though to kind of sit down and at least try and have this conversation with you guys. I'd be really interested to hear your hot take on all of this. I'm kind of low-key terrified to put this out there and have an open conversation about it. And maybe it'll be a conversation that I decide to go further with in a different video. But I think this was like just the short answer of it.